Hey, thank you everybody for joining me on another episode of Her Wild Outdoors. And Ryan, off the grid, is joining me today for that conversation. So thank you, Ryan.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I usually do an intro right about now, but I kind of want to ask you something and we can come back to that. You just got back from Africa, and so did a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. And I'm wondering, like, you had a great time, right? It was
Absolutely.
Africa's just, I mean, I've been to Africa. I've been not on a hunting expedition, but I've been for 2 weeks in South Africa, all around South Africa, but then on up into Kenya for about a week. And it's an experience that you really, unless you have been, you cannot grasp it, right?
I mean, it sounds lame, but the word that keeps coming to my mind is magical.
Yeah.
Like it's childhood dreams.
Yeah. No, it's very true. I remember coming back, and I remember not just the jet lag, but I remember the longing to go back immediately.
It's such an overall experience that, like, seeing the animals, hunting the animals, the culture, that's all cool. But like every time I go, I have a change in myself as a person.
Yeah.
Something changes at home, or you have time just to think clearly while enjoying this. That it changes your soul.
Yeah. I went on a medical trip. So that was back when I worked at the hospital, and we took what's over here that expires it doesn't expire over there for a lot longer. And so we're able to take antibiotics and eye drops and things like that. And we were able to do that. And you see a lot of the need when you're over there, but I think it was very important to see the beauty and the joy and just the amazing countries that are over there, because otherwise you just see what you're shown on television, third world countries that are just falling apart, whereas there is so much more to that continent than the sadness and the grief and the fighting, and there is so much beauty and so much family and tradition. And I think that if you have one without the other, you're missing the country completely.
I think there's parallels to the U.S. You get away from urban areas here, it's a completely different experience, and it's the same thing there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same. I've been to Haiti, and if you cross the border into the Dominican, you can find resorts like crazy over there. But if you step 10 miles one way, you've got the other. And I think that when you go and you immerse yourself in it for more than just a day or two, you actually get to see what it's all about. Now, of course, I can never completely empathize with people who live in conditions that they live in that I have seen, but I 100% believe I left a little bit of myself over there, and I wouldn't mind giving more of myself over there at any point in my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I had a girlfriend who got back from over there, and she hunted, I'm trying to think, I'd have to go back and look, but she hunted over there. I think she had 3 game animals that she was hunting and that she was able to kill while she was over there. And when she got back, she realized that her photo had been shared on many anti-hunting pages, along with the negative speech that comes along with it. And I guess I wonder, because I've talked to women about this, of course, but I haven't really gotten the opportunity to talk to men about this who travel over there and who experience the same thing that she has, or even on different levels, and what their response, like what they are getting responded to in the same.
Oh, that is the story of my social media public page.
Yeah.
If you shoot a whitetail, nobody blinks an eye.
Mm-mm.
And but a mountain lion, a bear, a wolf, here in North America. But if you shoot a zebra or a giraffe, people lose their minds.
Yeah.
And, they attack men's pages as well. But I think, there's a larger response to women's pages because this anti-cancel woke BS, they attack what they perceive as weak targets. They're like, look at this woman, let's beat her up. And it's other women too. It's anti-women that they just gang up. And I mean, you've seen it. You see it time and time again. Mm-hmm. Where I'm not going to make PETA's page, and I'm not going to make the large Facebook anti pages, but they'll come on my page and attack me, and they ain't ready.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to roll over. I'm not going to lay down. If you insult me, fine. If you insult my family or threaten my family, whole different ball of wax.
Right. Oh yeah.
But if you come on my page and you're inquisitive and you're respectful, I will give you all the time in the world. But I have no patience for the rest of these people, and they get way more than they bargained for. And my followers and friends are awesome. They are right in the fight. I'm not gonna roll over. You don't get to come on my page, bash me with ignorance. If you want to talk, I'm here to talk. Yeah. I'm here to educate. I'm here to teach you. But don't come on my page with that BS.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple of different women about it, just because it does seem that we, as the female side of our community, are easier targets. And I think that recently they're starting to notice that is not necessarily true. I think that they're still trying, but I think that women in our community are finding their voice in a good way and in a strong way. And I think, like you said, the followers and the support that we have on the side is pretty spot on, and I appreciate it. I know over the past 3 years since I entered the public social media of hunting, I've been hunting longer than that, but since I entered it, I've been called every name under the book. And I know that you have too, and so many others have. It happened Saturday on somebody else's page. All I said was, I truly like whitetail over some of the other deer species because of how tender it is. And 3 different pages responded back with the most crass, disgusting things that you can hear. And it's like, come on.
Were those other hunting related pages?
No, they were anti-hunting pages that had come on to a post talking about the differences between the deer species in North America. Like, it's just ridiculous. Now, do I respond to that? No. They're not looking for a conversation. Like you said, they're not coming on looking to learn or to grow or to hear a different side. They're just there to spark up anger and frustration and show that I will respond in hatred. And I'm like, I'm not even going to respond to you. That's not worth it to me.
Those types of people are going to seek out stuff that they don't like.
Yeah.
I've had people, ask me, they're like, why don't you go on those pages and start fights? And I'm like, because I don't look for stuff I don't like. There's always the scroll past option and go about your day.
Yes.
I'm not going to seek out the fight, but those types of people are coming. They're actively searching and looking for us. I mean,
Agreed.
That's pathetic.
Yeah, it is. And it's, again, you go back to, and I think Guy from Western Contours told me one time, they don't know you personally at all. So if they're not going to ask a question, if they're not going to have a conversation that is not in attack mode, then it's not worth leaning into, because that's not their goal. Their goal isn't to learn or to listen. It's just to do what they do. And those are the people that it's not worth responding to. My mental health is much more important than leaning into that or seeking it out. It's not worth it. Mm-mm. But it is interesting. I think that I had a conversation with Olivia Opry last week, and we talked about how valuable a woman's voice is in our community, and how not that it's above a man's voice when we are talking to anti-hunters or non-hunters, but it has a different tactic coming into it, right? So I can come in maybe more accepted to come in and have a conversation because of how I talk or how I present myself, or just because I'm a woman. And does it mean it's fair? No. But does it mean we have a foot in the door? That's awesome. And I think that the anti-hunting groups are noticing that. I think that the women's voice does have an important stance in our industry and in our community and in the world. And I think that they're noticing that. And that might be another reason why they're trying to kind of isolate that one gender and attack it a little bit more. I can see that.
Well, I mean, look how fast, the demographic of women is growing in the outdoors, which is an awesome thing. And, I could be wrong, but, women may be perceived as, nurturing and motherly, those types of qualities. So you do have that tone, which if I'm responding to an attack, they're going to look at me and be like, oh, look at this meat-headed, bearded white male.
Yes.
I'm just like the rest of the hunters. That's their perception. But the fact that women and minorities are growing in the hunting world, your voices are huge because it gives a different aspect to it.
Yeah. It's not the response of, oh, you're a hunter. It's, whoa, you're a hunter? And it opens the door to not necessarily changing their minds all of a sudden to support hunting or to become a hunter, but it opens their minds to have a conversation and to be inquisitive. And that's that foot in. But it's a double-edged sword, because with that opportunity also comes responsibility. And I think that that's where we also see women who aren't doing it well are being used as examples against our fight.
we can open up that can of worms if you want.
But we both agree on it. It is a huge responsibility.
Regardless if you're male or female and you're a hunter, I say it all the time. When somebody does open up the channel for conversation that doesn't understand, we have a moral obligation to give that person all the time we can.
Yes.
They don't have to go out and buy a gun or a bow and start hunting. But if they're on the fence and they're willing to be pragmatic and logical and listen, they're no longer against us.
Right.
And that's huge. Is fighting the middle ground. You're never going to change the extremists. I mean, they're literally clinically insane.
And it is taking it one conversation at a time. You don't have to win them over in one conversation. Just have that one piece of communication where you find commonality. And I think that that's where that door goes from being a crack to being a little bit more open, and you just create relationship. And I think that that's what communication is all about anyways. Take it completely across all spectrums of the world, whether you are in business or you are in the sporting world, or if you are in hunting, whatever you are doing, communication is key. It makes or breaks you. So it's how we communicate. It's how we present ourselves. It's how you take your responsibility and go with it. So if you have one follower, you are responsible. You are morally obligated, like you said, to do it well. And you are held responsible for the things that you don't do well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I'm going to skip back. Tell us just a little bit about yourself. I really want to know these are my two top questions. I really want to know how the outdoors came into your life. But I think with all of us, when did it go from just being something you did to something that you became passionate about?
Oh, boy. I mean, growing up, I grew up in Door County, Wisconsin, which is like salmon capital of the Great Lakes, and probably the top 5 smallmouth fishery in the world. Muskie, northern. Everybody I grew up with, deer hunted, which was more of a family thing than going out and just hunting for pure passion, more of a family and tradition thing. But my dad didn't hunt.
Really?
No. And my mom's family, a little bit, but I mean, nothing crazy. I mean, below average.
Yeah.
But I mean, my peers all did. So I mean, I took an interest to it, about 13, 14, and it was literally just the boys getting together with, as much leash as our parents would give us to go kind of be on our own.
Yeah.
And shooting squirrels, shooting raccoons, rabbits, maybe pheasants, game farm, but it was nothing like crazy. Like I said, my dad didn't hunt, but he still actively participated in mine and my brother's interest in it, and we started a deer camp, and that was basically it. It wasn't anything wild. It didn't take over my life and become my lifestyle until much later in life. So joined the Marine Corps right out of high school and spent the year 2000 through 2006 in the Marine Corps, deployed to Iraq, came home, went to college, and still really wasn't like big in my life. We'd still do family deer camp, maybe go duck hunting once or twice a year. I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2011. So, I mean, 10 plus years out of high school, and post combat, and had started my, 9 to 5 white picket fence life that I kind of felt pigeonholed into. I lost both my parents that year to cancer, 2 months apart, and everything fell apart. I mean, I was deep in the bottle and hated my job, was in a rather bad marriage, which, a lot of the blame was on me for that. I just was I was spiraling out of control. So my dad had passed in August of 2011, and in October of 2011, a Marine that I served with was working for an organization called Semper Fi Fund, and he was also the Wounded Warrior Coordinator, which is not the organization. It's a active duty position where he was tasked with, when guys get seriously injured or are mentally incapable of serving, they temporarily put them on a disabled list and they send them home. And his job was to get these guys out, get them connected, and send them on events. Not necessarily a hunting event, but this duck hunt had crossed his radar, and he's like, "Oh my God, I got to get Ryan on this." And I showed up to that event, and I had duck hunted, but I wasn't a duck hunter. And I think there was 6 vets, but just the fact that these people were putting this event on and where it landed in the timeline, I needed that so badly that that event is literally the fulcrum and changing my entire life. I mean, I get chills just talking about it. The people that put that on, Chuck Dodge and Ryan Boy, were 2 buddies that decided to do this hunt, and Ryan Boy's wife, Carrie, was kind of like the administrator of it. They became fill-in parents for me, and we're not even that far difference in age, but they saw where I was, and they had seen what this hunt did for me, And, I can't thank them enough for not just the hunt, but, what they've been like as people to me. And I sat down with them at the end of this hunt and I said, look, like, this is so cool. How many guys do you want next year?
Yeah.
And they said, well, we can handle about 15 or 20. I brought them 20. The next year I said, how many guys can you handle? 35. So, here we are in 2021. The last 4 years, we've taken 85 guys out over the course of a weekend.
Wow.
Fully guided, fully, food, lodging, guiding, everything is all taken care of. It is an amazing event that I'm so proud to be proud to have grown it. And, that event itself not only put me back into the outdoors, maybe saved my life, and propelled me into not just a guy that went duck hunting, but a full-blown waterfowler. It made me quit my job and pursue this. And, here I am now setting up the same type of events all over the country and the world. And that story is going to be told this year. Savage is going to come in with their media team, and tell my story, and I'm excited about it. I think it helps other vets know that, like, there's a way back into normalcy. It as normal as you could be.
No, I agree. I mean, I've talked to female vets who have come back, and even more recently, as this spring, I had a conversation with a woman who said, it wasn't necessarily that she was losing her life being back as a civilian, but it was that she was missing her family.
Oh, the camaraderie in these is huge, but it's not just vets being together. I think the people that volunteer, whether they're the guides or just the people that are cooking or behind the scenes, I don't think they realize until they participate in this how much they become part of the event. They become part of the camaraderie.
Yes,
and it's so cool to see. On Facebook, 4 years later, a guy that I put in a vet that I put in a boat with a guide, they're still jaw-jacking and they're still friends. And that is so, that part, I mean, duck hunting really kind of fits that build. There's a lot of joking and laughing, and you don't have to be as, noise disciplined until the birds start flying. And so that it really kind of fits. I do more waterfowl hunts for vets than anything else because you can do it as a group, and it kind of brings back that squad, team, platoon type feeling.
I let's see, not this year, but the year before was my first time ever waterfowl hunting. And before that, it was just solo deer hunting. That's all I did. And so stepping out from being by myself, I never hunted with anybody until I took my kids. That step out into this whole new social type of hunting, it fed a different part of me. I still love deer hunting. I love being by myself. I love solo hunting so much. It allows me to be still and quiet, but sometimes there are days that actually hurts. And finding another avenue that I love hunting, but finding another avenue that allows me to be with other people, whether they're men or women, to be able to learn from them and grow from them, but also just talk. And it sets the stage to be able to have those conversations. It can start out as joking, but it can kind of lead into other conversations and then end with a hug and a relationship that you've built. And that happens for men and women. And it doesn't matter if you are a vet or a civilian. It matters where you're coming from. It matters for what you need. And I think that, like you said, it does. It just fits that need.
I had a guy, I think last year was his fourth year. And the cool thing is about 50% of the guys that come, and we have women veterans come too, which is awesome. 50% that come are new, and 50% are return. Some guys will miss a year, then come back 2 years. And but this Marine came up to me and he's like, I've been coming here 4 years and I've never shot a duck. And I was like, what? And he's like, I shot at ducks, He goes, I've never killed a duck. And I was like, well, how does it make you feel? He goes, I don't care. He goes, this event is way more than that.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just happy to be out here.
Mm-hmm. It feeds more than just that. And let's be honest, it shows that hunters aren't just out there to kill something. It isn't all about that. Yes, that is an added benefit, that you are able to put something on the table or to have that success of what you've been working for, but it isn't all about that. It's about the whole process. And I don't know, it's just important. I think that I've taken a couple of groups now on a snow goose conservation hunt. This will be the third year that I'm going, and with snow goose, if you are signing up for that, you can shoot as many as you can. That's the goal. We're trying to help out farmers. We're trying to help out the tundra up in Canada and the Arctic Circle. Like, we are trying our best to manage these birds. And so to take a group of, whether they have hunted or not, on a snow goose conservation hunt, yes, it is great because it's great learning. They're big bodied. They come in kind of slow, and you can shoot as much as you can. So it's a great learning opportunity. But I've had so many people walk away who have never hunted in a group before, and they say, oh my goodness, I could have not gotten a goose all day, and this would have been the best hunt. And that's when you know it did what it was supposed to do.
I mean, snow goose hunting, we've had it before where a big wad gets up from a feed and circles and circles, and the guide is playing that game like, all right, do we cut them now, or are they going to do one more? Like they're going to give it up. But they're borderline tornadoing over the top of you, and something pulls them off, and it's still awesome.
It is.
That was so cool.
It really is. Last year, I was on one weekend, and we had a couple come in, but it was mainly that, like, we would have just what we were talking about. They're circling down, and then they just spook off. And it was fine. We got a couple birds that weekend. It was awesome. The next weekend I went, not one snow goose came over us all day.
No.
There was some airplane guy that was flying over us that really stunk, and there's a little bit of frustration. But even after all of that, all of the girls that were with me that day said, we'll come back next year. And we didn't even see anything.
I think that opens up insight to another problem we have with social media and hunting. If I go down to Arkansas every February. I always say I'm going to take the year off because I'm done with the grind at the end of January.
Yeah.
After August through end of January, gone. 2 weeks a month, and somehow I can't stay away. And I go down in February, but everyone that has never done it before thinks that there's just going to be, we're going to kill 500 birds and it's going to be chaos. And you might have a 2-bird or a no bird or a 10-bird day.
Yeah.
And you'll get guys that are like, well, this isn't, what it was supposed to be. Like, dude, you're doing this for the wrong reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
The expectations are set so high, people don't realize that, like, it's still hunting.
Yeah.
And you should hunt because you love to hunt, and understand that there's
going to be those days. And they're still worth it. We got to see a beautiful sunrise, and we got to see a beautiful sunset, and we got to joke around, and we got to sit in mud in a rice field that stunk so bad. But it was such a great day. And I think that is a conversation that we have with people when we're inviting them, or that they want to go. Here are the expectations. The expectations are, you might get nothing. Do you still want to go? And I think that that's kind of how I vet it just a little bit on letting people come, because this event isn't like I'm not out there going, hey, you want to come? Hey, you want to be a part of this? Hey, let's all get together and take pictures and do. It's not about that. It's about.
We're not there to win the Max Prayer Wings competition.
No, we are there to learn how, where are you supposed to be shooting and where are you not? How are you being respectful of hunters that are laying feet from you? How are you being respectful of the farmers whose fields you are allowed to use? There's so much more to it. There's just so many lessons that come from it. But there's also, like you were saying, that sense of community that we're building, that sense of relationship that goes beyond that field into years of a friendship. And I mean, take it back to how it impacted you. That's the power that it has. It has the power to hurt as well. So I think that there's a huge responsibility in that I take seriously. And I think a lot of people do. And I respect those people tremendously. And I think that group that you went with, you walked away changed. And that's amazing. I'm glad.
100%.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, I do kind of want to switch us just a little bit, and we have talked a little bit about it, but I would like to ask you, as a man, but also as somebody who has been in this community for a while, how have you seen the women's role in our community change over the past couple of years?
Well, I mean, I think we first need to just address the elephant in the room that, we kind of alluded to is the ones that are not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm the moral authority and what I say is correct.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a certain someone hunting a wildebeest in a bikini in Africa, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
I do. Uh-huh.
What are you doing?
Yeah. What does that accomplish?
Exactly.
Yeah.
As the father of two stepdaughters, one
mm-hmm.
who has started hunting, how can I have her look at that and take anything away from that besides the fact that that is literally trashing the traditions and the reasons why we do this. You're looking for likes, you're looking for attention.
Yes.
And there are plenty of women that are beautiful, that are classy, mm-hmm. and that are doing the work, that are out there, and they're not getting the attention mm-hmm. that they should. And that's on the men. That's on the men clicking like. That's on the men. But at the same time, most of those guys aren't even hunters.
They aren't. So, if you look through it, they're not. Yeah.
What I have seen change is that people with men with large followings and that have some pull are publicly against all this stuff to the point where it's swaying other people. I'll mm-hmm. say to people, I'm like, why do you even follow her? That's that's trash. And they're like, well, give me some good ones to follow. I can think of 10 off the top of my head, just bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
Of women that are out there doing the work, that have earned their position. And you don't have to have a ton of experience or have a huge following to have earned your position. You can be new. You've earned your place by the efforts you put in, by your willingness to learn, and by your willingness to present hunting for what it should be and put it in the most positive light.
Yeah. Having a teenage daughter myself who is hunting, I have actually talked to other women as well who, when they were growing up and they were wanting to hunt, they were trying to look for people, for role models. And they kept seeing on magazines and they kept seeing on advertisements, and they kept going, but I don't look like her, and I don't act like how do you change that viewpoint? And what some of the women have said to me is by being me. By being me and by not being afraid to put myself out there, because that's the biggest thing is what scrutiny are you going to come under? What are those conversations going to be like when you have people being mean and cruel? And I'm like, you just have to have thick skin. But I point my daughter in the direction of real hunters, not the people who are out there trying to get paid to do it. Not, and I don't mean paid in a good way, in a way of showing skin. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I want my daughter to see good examples. I want her to see examples of real women who are just like the real men out there who have 9-to-5s and still love hunting, and it's still a part of their lives, and they learn how to infiltrate it throughout their year. And I want her to see the women who are doing it well and have made it something that is a day job. That's awesome. I'm excited for them as long as they do it well. And we get called down all the time. Don't be divisive. Don't be divisive. Don't be divisive within our own community. Don't be divisive. Well, I have to say that my moral ground has me supporting hunters that do it well, that do it right, who do it lawfully, and who aren't just out there doing things that pull back, like you said, the tradition. And those are the people that I'm going to support. And I cannot support people who do it badly, who do it wrong and illegally. That's just, they're not hunters, they're poachers.
The trash will always see itself out eventually.
Yeah.
And you know, like you said, like be you, be strong in your convictions, and you know, do it the way that you know to be right.
Yeah.
And you know, that movement is growing. And I'm so happy to see that. I'm so happy to see, you know, when certain high level companies, whether it's gear or, you know, apparel or whatever, but it's hunting related, start latching on to the ones that we know are for lack of a better term, fraudulent. I'm seeing people lash out and be like, you know, look, so company X, your gear is great, but like, I'm not going to buy your stuff anymore because this is the person you're attaching yourself to. Yeah.
I think that we're noticing a desire for authenticity more so now than we have in the past. I think we are calling it what it is. And we're showing.
I'm laughing because I just remembered a comment on a certain. I'm not going to name the company or the person that attached himself to, but somebody wrote, "She's killed more cell phone batteries than deer."
It's true though. It's true though, and I think some companies are starting to hear that demand. I think that there are enough women and men out there who want real, not models posing. We want somebody that we can relate to, not somebody that is not realistic.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being attractive. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with capitalizing on you know, your appearance or your look. Just don't be a one-trick pony.
Right. And do it for the right reasons. There's nothing wrong with making money in this industry. In fact, our industry has a whole lot of money to make. It's how you do it. Completely. It comes down to how you do it and why you're doing it. And
so you don't have an OnlyFans?
No. Hell no.
I'm kidding.
No, you will not find pictures of me in bikinis out there. I'm a 41-year-old woman who has a daughter who's looking at all of my stuff. No.
I was just kidding.
Yeah. It's not worth that to me. I would rather shut down all of my social media and get back to just loving it, which I do. I still love it. But if it ever got to a point to that point, oh no, I'd need somebody to check me hard and say, that's like, I'm calling all of you out there. If it ever got there, which I doubt it ever will, but call it out for what it is. We all need checks and balances, right? We always need people on our side who are going to say, hey, why'd you post that? Not necessarily saying it was wrong, but checking our reasons for doing it. Are you just posting to post? Are you just posting for those likes? Or are you posting because it was something cool that happened that you want to share? And that's where you're a storyteller.
Even some of the, when you post a kill picture, clean the animal up.
Yes.
Like, you understand blood. I understand blood. We understand, like I always say, the kill is the least enjoyable. The actual act of killing the animal is the least enjoyable part of the hunt. It's the culmination of the hunt. It is what puts meat on the table. It's the pursuit attracts me. But if you're going to put out a picture to honor the animal, clean the animal up.
Right.
Don't give anything to those that are already against us.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost watering down, but for a reason of not allowing the antis to use that against us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, 100%. It's we have talked about it on here before. We've said, our community, our world is evolving. It evolves because we have more access to it. So more people have access to seeing things, whereas before in our hunting community, back in the 70s and 80s, you'd have those grip and grin pictures, but they were printed out, whether they were on Polaroids or with a 35 millimeter camera, and you had it in your home. You had it.
It was on the bulletin board at the gas station.
Yes, it was. It's a place. Those pictures were surrounded by people who understood that community, and now those photographs and those videos are for the whole world to see. And so you have to evolve how you present it. It's not that you're dumbing it down or watering it down. It's that you are thinking ahead to the whole world seeing it. If one person doesn't like it and they repost it and it's reposted and reposted and reposted in a negative light, whether you meant for just your community to see it or the whole world to see it, now the whole world did see it.
As soon as you hit post, it's out there.
It is out there. You can't take it back. I've talked about that with both of my kids. Once it leaves you, the world has access to it. And how will they use it? That's what you have to think about when you share the pictures. It doesn't mean that you can't take a picture. It's just in how you share it.
I was laughing. I laughed at some anti. They're like, oh, like this is just glorifying death and killing. And I just shared a picture of a cave painting. I'm like, the first Instagram. We've been doing this. It's to honor the hunt.
Yeah.
It's to honor that animal. It's to honor that memory.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing as taxidermy.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a decoration, but when every single animal, when somebody new comes over to the house and I walk around the house, it takes way more than just looking at it because I'm telling a story about every single hunt, and it's awesome because I remember that hunt every time I look at them.
My son still does that. People walked in this weekend. We had someone visit this weekend who had never been in our home before, and my son took him directly over to the wall where we have our favorites. Like I hate to call it a trophy wall, but it is a story wall. It is our story wall. And he took him right over to the wall, and we've got antlers. We've got, 10 point. We've got 8 points. We've got a doe because my daughter's first deer was a doe, and we have that euroed on the wall. And he took him straight over to his button buck that was his first deer. And he said, that's mine. And
I love it.
And he told the story of it. And that's what it's about. I think that we forget sometimes that the story is how we pass on tradition. And the story is how history gets passed on. And I want, the generations that come behind me to hear about, nobody hunted in my family before me. So how did it get started? how did I pass that legacy on that started with me? And that's what it's all about. It's about sitting around the dinner table and eating what you have taken throughout the year and being able to look across the room and see that story unfold right in front of us. And it connects it all, and it connects us.
I love that. I'm going to start calling. Well, I have an Africa room. It's going to be called my story room.
It's your story room, and that's what we are. Whether you are a hunter that hunts all year long, or you are somebody who just goes out once or twice a year, that's your story.
That the Africa room is a den that offshoots off the living room, and I've got a pith helmet and monocles and pipes in there, and that's where we go to talk when people come over.
Yes.
You have to wear the monocle for at least the first 20 minutes and at least humor me.
Yes. But it's where you connect. It's where you, if that's who you are, then that's how you have conversations with people. It's all relational, and we all strive for a relationship. We're built for a relationship. And if, I don't know, I never knew another woman that hunted until I got on social media, ever. Did not know one woman who hunted. And my world has opened up, and I've learned so much from other women because of the stories that they tell. And you can do that through video. You can do that through photography. You can do that through podcasting, or you can do that by just going on hunts with other people and sitting around talking with them. And that's my favorite part.
I love it.
What do you do day job wise that allows this passion to continue to grow?
This is it. I do all the photography, videography, booking. I mean, basically one-stop media shop. You know, if I go with an outfitter and film something and document it while I'm there, I'm growing their pages. Kind of a social media guru. And my followers hit me up when they're interested in a hunt, and they book through me. So
it's perfect.
Yeah.
How did you get the off the grid part of your name?
So, back to that veterans duck hunt. When I left there that year, there was something about waterfall that just, struck a chord with me, and now I'm 5 birds away from finishing the North American Grand Slam. I'm going to be hunting birds internationally. I've gone all over the place. Ducks and duck hunting attracted me so much that following spring, I picked up a camera, and as the reverse migration was going on, as the birds are migrating south, it's weather-based. When they're migrating north, it's breeding-based. So all the ducks are concentrated, and you get species that sometimes don't usually end up on your flyway, but all the drakes are all plumed out. I just went out and started taking photographs of ducks because I was like, I was ready for fall, and it's April, and posted them on Facebook, and I had just this crappy Casio point and shoot, and people were like, you've got the eye, you need to consider looking into doing this. Bought all the equipment, and I think by August I had quit my job. And was really broke for a really long time. But I did photos for a year, did a lot of wildlife photography, hadn't really incorporated the two together yet. And then a friend of mine from social media, we knew each other from Facebook. That was it. Pat Cummings, he's out of Michigan. He guides snow geese in Arkansas as well. But Pat hit me up, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going down to Texas to hunt Rio Grande turkeys. I just got picked up by Pursuit Channel. He's like, I know you know how to kill and hunt, and your pictures are awesome. Can you film?" And I was like, never tried it before, but I'm free. Let's go.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. And it just kind of evolved from there. So, I mean, but to answer your original question, I mean, the off the grid, is what I originally named my photography company. It was Off the Grid Photography, and it's kind of an oxymoron, like you're using social media completely on the grid, but a lot of the stuff that when you're out there filming and photographing and hunting, you're off the grid. You're as far away as possible. So it's taking people to that. And then as my hunting profile, which was separate from my photography one, grew, I just kind of combined the two together, and that's how we get Ryan off the grid.
I love it. I love that. I love hearing when people take the things that they're passionate about and they make them their real life, not just their, having their 9-to-5 job and then they've got this other passion on the side. But when you combine the two and you make it to where you get to do what you love and be able to get paid to do that, and it makes for a great life. It might not always be easy, but it makes for a great life.
You can ask my wife. She picks up the absolute slack. I'm gone a lot, and I don't know if she hates me or loves me, but she's still here. So,
well, we appreciate her, and I think that
you just walked in. We're talking about you.
I do, though. It's something that you have to be. You have to take that leap of faith into, that it's going to be hard. It might be really hard in the beginning, but it's going to be worth it. And the lives that you impact along the way, it's icing on the cake. So I'm glad you're still doing it.
It's kind of, just being in Africa or in the Bering Sea or Arkansas, wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you're out there doing it, and you just every once in a while got to take a breath and be like, I get to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is pretty awesome.
I had not.
Especially on a crappy day where like the hunting's not on fire and the weather's terrible. It's like, I still get to do this.
Yeah. It's, I had only hunted out of state once. I had done snow goose in Arkansas and Missouri before I went to Texas this past spring and did a turkey hunt. And I was there for a couple days, and it was hard. I don't know what I was expecting going in. I was thinking, okay, we're going to Texas. Texas is easy. Like, this should be easy. I'd hunted turkeys for 2 years prior and gotten nothing because turkeys are crazy.
They're jerks.
They really are, and I love it. But it was me trying to learn how to do it on my own. And so going with a couple of people who really knew their stuff, even though it wasn't guided, it wasn't a ranch that you hunted turkeys on, it was just an opportunity. Well, we hunted for 5 days and I finally got a turkey. And the epitome of all of it, the struggle through all of it coming into it, was worth it, right? The miles hiked, the cactus in my boots and in my pants, and I had a rattlesnake going between my legs. Like, there were some crazy things that we had to overcome. There's a crazy donkey that just wanted to eat us. And but those are the stories that you come back with and you go, but through all of that, it finally happened. And even if it had not happened, I would have walked away with so much more knowledge. And I think that that's kind of like, you're coming into a hunt to learn. I will never not want to learn. I always want to push myself in a direction of what can I learn from this? What do I not know? Because I want to know it. I will never be the one that says I know everything, because I know for certain I don't. So I'll be the one that goes, okay, can you explain that again? Or can you explain that fully? Because I think I know a little bit about it, but I want to know all about it. I'm the observer. I'm the one that sits back and watches instead of being in the forefront of things. And I think that we need more of those people out there. We need a lot of teachers, but we also need a lot of people who are willing to learn. And these hunts allow that. They allow not only the learning, but they allow the relationship. And whether you're a man or a woman, you need it. So
100%.
I'm glad that you said that. Mm-hmm.
Two things about learning. And first off, it's always a process.
Mm-hmm.
And every successful hunt that I have had came from a failure at one point, and then learning through observation and learning that behavior and learning to pattern. It came through failures.
Yeah.
And learning from those failures. And the second thing, I can pretty much confidently say that I can go just about anywhere. I mean, I'm not just a waterfowler. I hunt everything.
Yeah.
Turkeys, bears, hound hunting, whatever. I hunt everything. I'm pretty confident that I could go anywhere and eventually get it done. But the first thing I do, even if it's something that I have over and over been successful at with a kill, is if I get into a camp, I find the oldest person there. Usually it's an old timer, that is in his 60s that's been in that camp every year, and I pick his brain, or I find the person that you can just tell has been around or knows the most about the property, the layout, or the local birds, the local deer, and I just pick their brain, because animals are amazing. When you think you got them figured out, you don't.
Yeah. And usually that person is the one that's quiet.
Yes. Like I was kind of alluding to that. Like, you kind of look around and be like, all right, that's the person. That's the person that knows everything that I don't.
Yeah. It's not the most social person. It's the one that does better one-on-one. It's the person that's sitting back observing. And you know that those are the people that take it all in and probably know more than anybody else there. I agree with that. I think we have a lot to learn from those who have come ahead of us. But then we have to turn around. I've always told my daughter, and she said this the other day, she was looking into being a part of a mentor program at school to mentor the kids younger than her. And she had to explain why. And I said, well, why? Why do you want to be a part of this? And she said, well, Mom, you've always said that when you learn something, you are taught it. So you are taught something and you learn it, and then you apply it, but then you have to teach it. You have to pass it on. And that is a full circle way of learning, because you learn things initially by being taught, but when you apply it, you learn a whole lot more. And then when you teach it to somebody else, it makes it so much bigger than it ever was beforehand. So we are all teachers, we're all learners, and we're all doers. We just have to combine it all. And I think that that's a great way of, like, I can see you doing that. You're passing it on, but you're also continuing to learn. And I say kudos to that. So thank you. And thank you for passing it on to those girls in your life. It really is impactful to have somebody reach out and say, do you want to be a part of this? It's not, can you be a part of it? It is, do you want to be a part of this? And it would have meant the world to me for somebody growing up to have said that. So thank you for doing that.
No, it's. I think I don't want to call it a meme, because it wasn't a meme. It's more of an infographic, and you may have seen it. It was like the evolution of a hunter, and there was like 6 levels, and like number 1 was just being introduced. 2 was, I'm just kind of paraphrasing here. More and more interest, start to seek more species, and then like 3 and 4 were what would be classified as trophy. You're going for the biggest deer. You're gonna pass up stuff looking for and then 5 and up into 6 is where, like, it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the hunt, the company, the experience, and teaching.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I've seen it. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was interesting when I put it out there, people started being like, I'm at 3 or I'm at 4. And somebody said, like, I'm at 4, 5, and 6. And I was like, wow. You don't have to, like, pick one thing. I have the North American Waterfowl Grand Slam on my target list.
Mm-hmm.
That's number 4. But number 6 is a everyday part of my life.
Right.
You can be, it's a fluid spectrum, and once you get up to the top of it, that is the main focus is teaching and passing on traditions and kind of policing our own.
Yeah, keeping it accountable. But then you set out on a different species and you start right back over at one. That's the best part of hunting. Yes. You can be hunting for decades and start something new. You can go to a different continent. You can try a different species, and all of a sudden you are at 0. So it's
we're talking about turkeys being jerks. They are straight up jerks. And I have guys that are very accomplished at some other type of hunting. They'd be like, I don't know if I could ever do that. They just sit in the middle of the road when I drive by and be like, all right, come on. We're going to go early season when they're being really, really big jerks.
Yes. And a little humbling.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're even different. Like the Eastern turkey over here, I've noticed I have to almost entice them. It's more of a purr. It's more of a quiet waiting game versus when I was in Texas, they just wanted to be yelled at. And so it's totally different hunting, even under the same species, the different subspecies. And that's the exciting part to me. There's always something new to learn. And so
it's funny you say that because I've had the complete opposite experience with Easterns and Rios.
No way.
Rios, where I've hunted them a couple places in Texas. If you yelp at them hard, they don't want nothing to do with you. And if here in Wisconsin, when they're hot and you yelp, it's like on a string.
No, I had Rios in Texas that we were just yelling at, just hammering, and I would have hens just bark back at me, angry, and all of a sudden the last 2 days, we had toms just running at us. The first day my gun exploded, so I don't count that as a try on a turkey, but they were just running at us, just ready to fight. But I've never had that experience here in Tennessee.
I mean, a lot of that is where they're at in the breeding cycle too.
Very true.
And this last season, we have week A through F, and you can pretty much draw tags for all of it if you're willing to drive a little bit. And it was funny that like 2 counties over, I killed 2 birds in 2 days. It was like I didn't shoot a bird for 2 weeks where I live, and even some of my buddies in Texas were like, "You ever gonna kill a bird?" And then all of a sudden, I was like, "Dude, the switch is gonna flip any day now." And when it did, it was crazy. Like I couldn't even do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas the 2 weeks prior, like, and not that I didn't have opportunities, I made mistakes. I got greedy and I peeked at a bird to my left, and here's a tom just staring at me to my right at 20, busted. But everything went wrong that the first 2 weeks, and they weren't as responsive. And then the next week, it was just insane.
And it depends on weather. It depends on on everything. And sometimes, honestly, you just get lucky, and that's all you can say. I just got lucky. Because like you said, you can do everything wrong and something happens great. And you're like, well, it was just meant to be.
You blow a stalk on something and you're walking back to the truck and something else walks out that's even bigger. And you're like, oh, that just happened.
Yeah. And you just sit there dumbfounded. Like, wow. I didn't. But
there's a lot of stories in my story rooms where I didn't do anything special. It wasn't, my prowess and knowledge and experience, just dumb luck. And I was in the right place at the right time.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Ryan, how can people, if they're interested in being a part of the duck hunt that you've been talking about for vets, how can they can they become a part of that, or what can they be a support crew for that?
To be involved as a veteran hunter, we do a registration process this year. It's in October again, and it's we're full 85 vets coming out again this year, and next year it'll be posted on Facebook page Horicon Marsh Veterans Hunt, and when that becomes available, it literally fills up in 2 days. It's first come first serve, online reservations. However, my entire calendar is filled up. I barely ever pull the trigger anymore. I'm at level 6, I'm organizing the hunts, I'm filming the hunts, I'm photographing the hunts, and putting on veteran hunts all over the country, for not just waterfowl. We got 2 Purple Heart bear hunters coming in first week of October up here in Wisconsin. I'm totally stoked about. So I put those out, and there's an application process for that. Because I try to tailor the specific hunt or event to veterans that fit.
Right.
I'm not going to send a first-time duck hunter to the North Atlantic to chase common eiders in November in Atlanta. I'm not going to do it. It's got to be somebody that's a hardcore duck hunter that has never had that opportunity, that lives in Oklahoma, who is nowhere near the coast.
Right.
And I have different events that are available based on different criteria, and all those will be posted for application process on Ryan Off the Grid on Instagram and Facebook, and then they can go see some of the past veteran hunts on my YouTube, which is also under Ryan Off the Grid.
Okay, so y'all go follow him, and then you can keep up with all of the signups and registrations and all of that when it happens. Ryan, thank you for your time today. I truly appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it. Great talk.
Good.